Marvel Rivals has only been out for a few days now, and we already have tons of leaks about upcoming heroes. We're going to start off with heroes that we have tons of details on already, such as their abilities, and we'll go down the list from there. I should also mention quickly that all of this info is coming from in-game files, and I'm getting most of my info from @RivalsLeaks on Twitter. So just a heads up, unconfirmed, but most likely coming. So starting us off first is Ultron, and Ultron is actually a strategist, so that is going to be our support role. And we do actually have the details on Ultron's kit, so let's just look at that quickly. Getting into Ultron's kit, we have Encephalo Ray, which is going to be his primary fire, and this unleashes a burning energy beam. So that sounds like it's going to be a continuous beam in the wording there. It could be a burst, but to me, it sounds like that's going to be a continuous beam. Next up, for his passive ability, we have Algorithm Correction, and this allows you to fall slowly when you hold jump. So we've already seen that with a lot of the other heroes, so nothing really new there. Next ability is Imperative Firewall, and this allows you to summon drones to grant bonus health to allies within range, centered around himself and the ally marked by Imperative Patch. Imperative Patch is one of his other abilities that we will get into shortly. Next up, we have Dynamic Flight, which is going to be his secondary fire, and this allows you to fly quickly in the direction of movement and then enter a free flight mode. So this is going to be something similar to what we see with Iron Man, but this might be on a cooldown and not something that is constant. Next up is Imperative Patch, which is the ability we mentioned earlier, and this allows you to command a giant drone to follow an ally, constantly healing allies in its radius with more healing for designated ally. So pairing that with Imperative Firewall, which is that first ability we talked about, which allows you to summon drones. This will also summon a drone around the ally that you have Imperative Patch marked on. Rage of Ultron is his ultimate ability, and this allows you to summon Ultron drones to fire Encephalo Rays, damaging enemies or healing allies. So I'm wondering now, after reading off his ultimate, and now I think this is probably the case with his primary fire, if you're on an ally, it will heal them, and if you're targeting an enemy, it will damage them. So that's all that we have for Ultron. He seems like a really good character just to like put your abilities down and kind of forget about them, do some damage, do some healing, and your abilities will just constantly do healing with all those drones flying around, or either around you and the ally that you have that Imperative Patch ability on. So seems like a lot of good crowd healing, and he actually might be one of the first new heroes to come to Marvel Rivals. We don't know when, but I have seen through leaks that he's coming very soon. The next hero we have a lot of info on is Mr. Fantastic, and we actually have his full ability page to share. Mr. Fantastic is a duelist, so he's going to be in our DPS category. And first off, we'll look at his primary fire called Elastic Punch, and this allows you to stretch out a forward punch to attack enemies, and this is most likely going to be a mid to short range attack. Next up, we'll look at his passive, and his passive is called Elastic Stretch. Skills generate elasticity, boosting attack power. Reaching full elasticity triggers an inflated state and restores health and boosts even more damage. The next ability we'll look at is called Rubber Grip, and this allows you to extend arms forward to entangle hit enemies. Then press your primary fire to select and yank two more enemies. So this ability seems like it'll allow you to bring them into range, so then you could hit with your primary attack. So that kind of confirms that this primary attack is probably going to be short to mid range. I also wonder if we could use this ability to pull enemies off the map like you see Roadhog players do in Overwatch. The next ability we're going to be looking at is Flexible Elongation, and this allows you to select a target and dash at it, dealing damage to enemies and granting bonus health to allies. His last ability before we get to his ultimate is called Reflexive Rubber. Stretch body to absorb damage before launching stored damage in targeted direction. So this is kind of like an absorption where you're going to take in a whole lot of damage and then you're going to shoot it right back at them, and it seems like you won't take any damage during that time. This also might allow you to get out of some sticky situations when you're super low health, and you can just pop this ability and not take any damage for a short time. Lastly, his ultimate is called Brainiac Bounce, and this allows you to leap and smash, knocking back enemies within range. Upon hitting an enemy, leap again up to 6 times. So what this sounds like to me by the wording is if you don't hit an enemy on your first bounce, you're not going to continue to get the next leap. I could be wrong, but it does say upon hitting an enemy, leap again to up to 6 times. So maybe you have to consecutively hit an enemy each bounce to get the next one all the way up to 6 times. It kind of seems hard, but we also don't know the range on this ultimate or the area of effect that it will be causing. So even though Mr. Fantastic is a duelist, he does have some healing in his kit. So maybe he'll be a good pick if you don't know if you want another duelist or another strategist. He might fit in that role where you could do a little bit of healing, but you're also putting out a lot of DPS. The next hero we have up is the Thing, and the Thing is a tank, and we currently know 3 of his abilities. First up, we have Furious Charge, which allows you to continuously charge forward, lifting enemies up in your path, leaving behind a seismic zone that prohibits displacement. I'm not really sure what prohibits displacement means, but maybe the characters are in like a trap, maybe they're bound for a second or two, or maybe that means something completely different. His second ability that we know is called Battlefield Support. This lets you jump towards teammates and adds damage reduction to them and yourself when you land. The last ability that we know, and it's actually his ultimate, is called Slam Moment. This uses tremendous force to knock all enemies in front of you into the air. That's all the details we have on it, and it kind of seems like some details are missing because that ultimate seems a little lackluster to me. So maybe that's not everything, and we'll just have to see. One thing I forgot to mention is the Thing's team up ability, and we actually see this from Gamma Fastball, which is Wolverine's team up ability, where Hulk can throw Wolverine into the air. And we can see in this description, they accidentally left in or and. And so it's been confirmed that the Thing is gonna be that or and. The next hero we have up is the Human Torch, and we sadly don't know any of his abilities yet, but we do have his team up. So let's take a look at that. His team up is called Omega Fire. Storm can consume one of Human Torch's fire tornadoes into her ultimate to ignite her hurricane. Human Torch can turn Storm's hurricane into a fiery hurricane with his ultimate, which will enlarge the intensity of his fire tornadoes caught in its path. That's actually a pretty cool sounding team up, not gonna lie, and I wonder if the fire is gonna do some damage over time and make those tornadoes a little more deadly. The last 2 heroes we have leaked today, but sadly no abilities were leaked alongside it, are Blade and Sue Storm. However, we do have Blade's character model in game, so I will display that right now. We can see that Blade does have a big sword on his back. I mean, that's pretty obvious that he would be carrying a sword, but with the sword being so big and prominent on his back, it could be one of his ultimate abilities or maybe just one of his abilities. I feel like his primary fire is going to be using guns, but this is all just speculation. And then Sue Storm, we don't have any info on, but we do know that she is coming. And we also know that Sue Storm is going to be a strategist. I forgot to mention, but at this time, we know that Sue Storm and the Thing are the least developed characters out of all of the Fantastic Four characters. So anyways, that's all the leaked heroes we know that are coming, and I really appreciate you watching. We're super close to 500 subscribers, so I really appreciate all the support. Let me know what heroes you're